But to me, the freedom is seeing what is it that experiences that there's something that's experiencing that is huge, that's always here, that never moves, that's infinite. There's this big space around it, and that's part of being human. Our bodily sensations go into pleasure and pain, and as you grow in this subject and you evolve, they dissipate and they become more open, and they maybe have less response. But that's not the freedom, because who is that? It's simply a reaction of the body. So most of you think that, even in the way I communicate, that's Lisa's story, and that's Lisa that didn't get something, or Lisa that has failed to understand something, or Lisa that hasn't released certain karmas. But who is this Lisa that you believe in so strongly? Who is this you that has anxiety or discomfort or trauma around certain things? There is no solid you. There's no solid you that's ever going to get anywhere. And the idea that your body is going to get to a permanent state of bliss and that is you is simply an idea that will keep you seeking. Who is it that experiences that? What is it that's experiencing that? This silence, this stillness, this space, this infinite nature that's right here, this looking that goes beyond all of that. And it's in that, it's in knowing who you truly are, that these feelings can be fully experienced. So letting them up like in their full veracity, and then they pass into something else. And it's knowing that it's not about getting to a perfect human. If that's what you're looking for, you'll be endlessly seeking. When you're waking up and after there's been like a shift, like looking at your dynamics is super helpful on the personal level. So it took me years to understand, why I would reject paperwork or not open mail, or ignore it or avoid it, or find sneaky ways to get around it. And it took me years to really get down to that feeling. And so now when that feeling comes up, I know instantly what's happening. And that's really helpful on the human level, like understanding the psychology of these bizarre bodies that do bizarre things. And in that it's healing, and in that it changes, and in that it stops you being so reactive. But notice it. Just notice it. So what's happening in your experience now? So there's a body that feels things. Maybe there's like a tight energy, or an open energy, a loving energy, or a sad energy. Just really like drop your attention into your body and really let it in. Like all your experience. Like stop trying to like avoid your experience. So your mind is like seeking, and your mind is like trying to get to another place, trying to get to past or future. But really let the sensation in. Like all the sensation, like what's happening in your feet, what's happening in your gut, what's happening in your heart. I was going to say art. What's happening in your throat. And then see that all of that is happening in a knowing. But that's not a knower. The thoughts aren't a knower. The feelings aren't a knower. All of it's happening in knowing. It knows them. And often when we have these awakening experiences, our body is in a state of pleasure, but you can actually have tightness in your torso, and you can be expanded. You can be infinite.
Yeah.
So what our mind is subtly doing is it's always rejecting negative feelings and negative karmas. And it's the opposite of what, it's not that should be done, but it's the opposite. Like, I can't think of a better word than saying should, but what the way to handle it is to totally embrace the negative, and to totally accept that on the human level we have karma. And yes, we can expand from that karma and we can change that karma, but it's also deeply embedded in our genetic history and our DNA. And our body has to have karma in order to respond. But you can have this like huge infinite space with all of that response happening. And you've got to like, I always think it's polite to work on your shit. Like that's the polite human thing to do, like the ethical human thing to do is to like work on your karma, like so see your karma. So when you're in relationship to someone, you can see when your karma is getting overexcited and being too dominant or too controlling or too bossy or too whingy or too whatever it is. So you can see that, and you don't have to keep acting it out with people. You can act like, to an extent, the karma is going to be acted out. You can't help it, but you don't have to keep like acting out very difficult scenarios again and again and again. Like you can catch them and you can move away from them. But also you can be free in all of that. There can be this massive expansion happening. Wow, the human is being a human. And that was radical for me, you know, when Roger was one of my teachers, and when he would say that you could be, I used to get so angry with him, because he would say that you could experience anger and be free. I'll be like, it would just make me so mad, like him saying that. And one day we were walking through the forest, and he was annoying me by saying this, and I began to get angry, and then suddenly I had this huge expansion, and then I was angry simultaneously, and I was like, no shit, oh yeah, you can be both. You can be both. What does change is the seeking energy. Though that's spiraling out of control, like that seeking energy. And that can be something that like changes instantly, or it can change and dissipate through time. That like pattern of thinking that if I don't get angry, or if somebody loves me, then I will be fulfilled by that. And what you're unconsciously believing is that fulfillment will be that love, that I am your true essence. And then you never get there. So that's what dissipates and changes.